Because just like Evergreen Fog last year, I think they took the easy way out again. Hey people, welcome back to the channel. My name is James, the painting and decorating guy, and this is a very special episode because I'm finally going to talk about the Sherwin-Williams color of the year for 2023. If you're not familiar, Sherwin-Williams, kind of a big deal, right? Massive, huge mega paint company, and every year, like many of their competitors, they release their choice for color of the year, which is their singular color choice to define the next year in design. They also release a bunch of color palettes that coincide with it, which we talked about in a previous set of videos. And if you're a loyal Paint People subscriber / watcher, you probably have seen them already. But today isn't necessarily about a whole bunch of colors. We're gonna keep it simple. We're gonna talk about one color, and it's called Red and Point. And here it is. I'm not sure how this looks on your screen right now. Actually, I think I do know. It looks kind of beige. Now, right off the bat, I definitely have mixed feelings towards this color choice. And that's kind of why I've been holding off talking about it, because I really wanted to digest and process it all. Not that I have any ill will towards any particular paint color on its own, but I guess I was sort of expecting something a bit different this year. And it is different from last year's choice, but still, I've been hearing all these murmurings and mumblings of the return to color, the revival of vibrancy, the abolishment of beige, and yet we're left with this. Great. Now, I don't want to go in too hard on this color right out the gate, so why don't we jump over to the Sherwin-Williams website and at least take a look at some inspirational photos that are meant to give you the essence of Red and Point. Kind of an awkward name to say. Like, you want to say Red and Point. The color is reddened, but it's not that. In fact, there's another color in one of the palettes that we talked about called Red and Earth, which kind of makes things very confusing, at least for me. Ooh la la. Beauty beyond ourselves. Embrace the spirit of connection with the world around us with this soulful yet subtle hue. Aren't we tired of subtle? Come on, guys. I do mean we as a collective, because I'm still kind of a fan of using neutrals, to be honest. But at the same time, to stamp an entire year as neutral is sort of underwhelming. Now, if you scroll a bit down on the Sherwin-Williams website, we see the words minimal, calming, and intriguing. Now, I'm going to give them a little bit of slack here because there actually is a teensy-weensy bit of intrigue in this neutral. Because we all know it's minimal, right? It's very neutral. And I guess that's calming because you can calmly work it into your color scheme pretty easily, avoiding a potential headache. I really think the intriguing part of this color comes from its undertone. If you can't see past the whole beige thing, I get it. But when you look a bit deeper, you will notice that this isn't your typical beigey tan color. There is a fairly noticeable red earthy clay undertone here that does modernize it a little bit. And I say a little bit because if you were around 15 or 20 years ago, you would have remembered the popularity of those rusty terracotta colors that I saw everywhere, and I painted kind of everywhere too. I feel like that is being referenced here ever so slightly in the background, which does give it some familiarity and a bit of nostalgia to me, but also in a more contemporary package because it is a little more downplayed and subtle with that touch of brown added in as well. It's also kind of funny to me because we see the color being used on kitchen cabinets in this photo, which is kind of interesting because the color that we used in our old loft on the cabinets had some parallels as well. It was basically another neutral with that little bit of red in the background, maybe a bit less so, but still going in that direction. So what this tells me is design is sort of heading in a fairly linear path where not too long ago there was those cool bluey purpley grays that were really in style and everything was very grayscale and monochromatic and modern, and then we started to realize that, hey, I don't want to live in an icebox, so we started to drift a little more towards those grayish colors, gray beige, inputting that sort of warm neutral aspect. And all of them were rooted in a yellow-based warmth. But now we're changing things up and we're heading towards red-leaning colors. So still warm, but a very different aesthetic. Now, I have a pretty strong suspicion as to why we're seeing this shift towards red, and it really has to do with the color that really started to make a comeback last year. If we take a look at the 2022 color of the year, it was Evergreen Fog, which was a very astute choice for the time, right? A fairly deep, muted gray-green color that I did enjoy quite a bit. And with the abundance of green that exists throughout design, we started to see it more and more in people's houses. And I don't necessarily think that will change anytime soon. I don't think that Evergreen Fog is the type of color that you paint it one year while it's in, and then you paint it over the following year. There's something about green that has this staying power because of its organic, vitalic nature. So just thinking logically, if you have green within your color scheme, then a really fun and easy complementary choice would be to incorporate red, or at least something with red in it, like Red and Point. I feel like Sherwin-Williams does this a lot, more so than any other paint company that I've looked at, really. Their colors of the year always seem to connect in a way, almost as if they're passing the torch, where they have this relation from one to the next. You'll often see previous colors of the year in current color trends palettes, and I think that's because they understand that good color choices, ones that are sound and really resonate with people, aren't going to become obsolete overnight. The color of the year for 2022 isn't all of a sudden null and void in 2023. By picking a color that has its finger on the pulse of design in this red direction, but also neutral enough that you can justify using it today in your home and not have to even think about it. If they wanted to hammer the point home, maybe they would have picked something a bit bolder, like Red and Earth, but they didn't. And that's also what sort of annoys me a little bit, because just like Evergreen Fog last year, I think they took the easy way out again. I was craving some more color, but instead we were blessed with a nearly neutral, rougey tan color that I do think is evocative of the times. It's giving me earthy Grand Canyon vibes. But before you set your mind on this color, you really need to see the full-on color palettes that Sherwin-Williams put together. And we did an entire playlist on all 4 palettes right over here, so you can check them out. Hit that like button for me if you liked my chat, and I'll see you in the next video.